everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today I am going to be taking you through all of the books that I read in 2022. I had such a good reading year, both with the amount of books that I read and the quality of the books that I read. So first of all, let's quickly look at my Goodreads stats. Now I've tried to use Storygraph in the past, but I never end up sticking to it. We'll just go with Goodreads. So I know I read, oh, that's wrong. Ah, there we go. Okay, I was gonna say, I did a reading vlog where I was going to try and reach 80 books in the year, and I thought I only got to 79, but it turns out I forgot to log one of these books. So I actually read 80, which I'm very happy about, and I read 23,463 pages. The shortest book I read was Alpha, which is Olivia Blake's graphic novel. It's one of two, I believe, so that's the first one, and then the longest book I read was House of Sky Breath by Sarah J Maas. So my average book length was 293 pages. That's interesting. I feel like in previous years I have read longer books, but maybe that's just my imagination, but that's interesting. I did read a lot of like manga and shorter books this year though, so that probably works out. Most shelved is It Ends With Us, of course, no surprise there. And my least shelved book is Still Alive by Safdar Ahmed, with 627 people shelving it. My average rating was 4. Oh my god, see what I mean? So I had a really good reading year. I read 80 books, which is I think the most I've ever read in a year while I've been tracking my reading, at least, which is about a decade now. And also like a 4-star average rating across the entire year is pretty good. I feel like I was pretty liberal with my 4 and 5 stars this year because I was just having a lot of fun reading, but like that's a good thing, right? Like I am so happy with having a 4-star average rating. Even if I'm applying star ratings liberally, like I'm still having a good time reading. I'm still enjoying the books I'm reading, and I think that's a really good thing. So my highest rated book on Goodreads was Know My Own Name by Chanel Miller, well deserved. And my first review of the year was a 2-star or 1.5 star review for Vox. And what did I say? I went into a little bit of detail, so that is my review there. And then these are my 2022 books, which I won't show you because I'm going to talk about them now. As you can see, I've piled up all of my read books throughout 2023 here behind me. So I'll be grabbing them and probably doing like a sentence or two on how I felt about them. I do have some books that I either read on ebook or audio, which I might not own, which I don't have behind me. But I'm excited, and we'll get right into the first book. So the first book that I read was Vox, which was what that scathing review was. I gave this one 1.5 out of 5 stars. I did not enjoy it. Then I have Vampire Academy by Rochelle Mead. This is the first book in the series. I was going to reread this series this year, but I just didn't get around to it, I suppose. I still enjoyed my reread of this one. It's a fun time. It's not like good, but it's a fun time, and I rated it 4 stars. And then after that I have the first 3 books in the Wayward Children series. So this is Every Heart a Doorway, Down Among the Sticks and Bones, and Beneath the Sugar Sky by Shauna Maguire. I really love this series. I think I gave all of these 5 out of 5 stars. I highly recommend this. Next I have The Memory Police by Yoko Ogawa. This one was really interesting. It's a dystopian set on an island where things slowly start to disappear and is even erased from their minds. I rated it 4 out of 5 stars, but on second thought it's probably 3.5 out of 5 stars, but it was a good read. After that I read Remina by Junji Ito. I don't physically own this one yet. I do want to, but I rated this one 4 out of 5 stars apparently, but I feel like it was more of a 3-star rating. I'm not really sure because I feel like it's probably my least favorite of his work so far. Then I read Crescent City or House of Earth and Blood by Sarah J Maas. I thoroughly enjoyed this. It was a little bit confusing at first, especially for the first 100 or 150 pages, but once I got used to it and once I kind of understood what was happening with the world, I devoured this. Like I had so much fun reading it. Then I ended up reading The Spanish Love Deception by Elena Armez. I gave this one 5 out of 5 stars. I also put so many tabs in there. I absolutely love this one. I know this one has a lot of mixed opinions and it got really popular on Book Talk, but I feel like I read this at a point in my life where I really needed a book like this. It brought me so much joy, and a lot of the stuff that was happening to the main character regarding her work in this book, which was touched upon, was happening to me in my real life. And so it was just like perfect timing for this book, and I had so much fun. Next I have Wondersmith by Jessica Townsend. This is book 2 in the Nevermore series, and I listened to the audiobook once again, and I just love the audiobook so much. It's really whimsical, magical. If you are a fan of Harry Potter but it's kind of tainted for you because of the author, I highly recommend giving this one a go. It is also arguably a lot better as well. The next book is one of the first books that I read for my Book Talk series, which I did this year, and that is My Year of Rest and Relaxation. I gave this one 3 out of 5 stars. This one was really average. I didn't hate this, but I really did not love it. Then we have It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover, and I really should have put this in my worst books of 2022 video, but I just forgot about it for some reason, and I did not enjoy my time reading this at all. I thought it was really cringy. I didn't like the characters. I feel like the topic of abuse that was handled in here has been handled better in different books. This was marketed as a romance, or everybody told me it was a romance. It is not a romance. Next I read Winter in Sokcho, which has this really cool cover by Elisa Shua Desapin, and this one is translated from Korean, and I gave this one 3 out of 5 stars. I think I remember the writing being really beautiful but not really memorable apart from that. Next up I read The Vegetarian by Han Kang, and this one is also translated from Korean, and I gave this one 4 out of 5 stars. It was very weird, very twisted. A lot of weird shit was happening in this book, but I really enjoyed it. But do look up trigger warnings for this. Then after that I read Shoko's Smile, which I gave 4.5 out of 5 stars. This is a short story collection translated from Korean again, and I loved this so much. It made me cry. It has a lot of beautiful quotes about being in your 20s, and it was just really beautiful, and I thoroughly enjoyed all of the short stories. Next up is The Love Hypothesis by Ali Hazelwood. I gave this one 4 out of 5 stars, and I had a fun time. It wasn't like the greatest thing ever, but honestly I had a lot of fun reading it. Then after that I read Homebody by Rupi Kaur. This was, I think, actually my first Rupi Kaur like poetry collection. I've never read any of her poetry. A lot of the poems really struck home for me personally as well, and I thought it was a really beautiful collection. Next up is Everything I Know About Love by Dolly Alderton. This is a memoir, and I didn't realize that a memoir was going to leave such a lasting impact on me, like personally. This book destroyed me. I definitely recommend this, especially if you're in your mid to late 20s and you're feeling a little bit lost or a little bit unsure about life in general. And yeah, I loved it so much. I also tabbed and annotated this so much. Next up I have Ice Planet Barbarians by Ruby Dixon. This is the first book in the series. I gave this one 3 out of 5 stars. This is like really questionable. There is a lot of questionable consent in this book, and arguably Stockholm Syndrome as well, so it is a little bit iffy, but I still find this series so much fun. I really enjoyed myself reading it. Next up I have Galatea by Madeline Miller. This is a short story. If you're a fan of Madeline Miller's writing, I definitely recommend this one anyway. It's beautifully written and it's really short, but it packs a punch. After that I have The Fine Print by Lauren Asher. This is the first book in the Dreamland Billionaires series. This one is essentially set at a theme park like Disneyland. I really had a lot of fun reading this. I kind of wish I didn't, because like I did have issues with it, but I can't deny that this sucked me in and just kept me in its grasp. I think I read this in like a day. Next up is On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous by Ocean Vuong. This is his first actual like novel that's not a poetry collection, I believe. Despite this one being so short, it took me a while to get through this despite loving it so much as well. It covers a lot of heavy topics, and it also goes like back and forth from past to present to sort of future as well. And because it's all written in a letter to his mother who doesn't speak English, it's a little bit to get your head around when reading, but it's absolutely gorgeous and I definitely recommend. After that, I read all of the Heartstopper books in one day. This is volumes 1, 2, 3 and 4 because the show was coming out and I wanted to reread the series again. I love this series with my entire heart and soul and it makes me so happy. Also, it makes me sad and cry a little bit, but it still overall makes me really happy. It's very wholesome. Next, I have Time is a Mother by Ocean Vuong. This is his second poetry collection and I really like this one as well. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. Again, beautiful writing. If you're in the mood for shorter poems, maybe don't pick this one up because a lot of these poems are multiple pages long, but they are absolutely stunning. Then I have Red, White and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston. This was a reread for me. I rated this one 5 out of 5 stars. I had such a good time reading it. It's one of my favorite books. It brought me so much joy. I decided to also tab and annotate this time around as well, and it just brings me so much joy. Then I read Book Lovers by Emily Henry and gave this one 5 out of 5 stars as well. This was my first Emily Henry book. I love this one so much. It was like the perfect blend of small town romance and New York vibes, and I really loved it. I loved Charlie Lastra, I loved Nora, I loved their relationship and all of the family stuff that was happening in the background, and it was just so good. Then I have Still Alive by Safta Ahmed. This one is a graphic novel about the refugee situation in Australia. The author visited a immigration detention centre in 2011 in Sydney for the first time. I highly recommend this to honestly everybody, but especially if you're Australian, because our refugee system is just disgusting and this brings light to a lot of that as well. Then I read Devotions by Mary Oliver. I rated this 2 out of 5 stars. I didn't really vibe with this at all. Most of her poetry is observations of nature, and while I found it very calming and sort of relaxing to read, none of it really spoke to me. I was sort of just reading the poetry in here just to finish the book, but I do see why a lot of people love this, but her poetry is just not for me. After that, I read Barbarian Alien by Ruby Dixon. This is book 2 in the Ice Planet Barbarian series. I rated this one 2 stars, but I still had lots of fun and I still love this series. Next is Terms and Conditions by Lauren Asher. This is the second book in the Dreamland Billionaires series and I really enjoyed this one as well. I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. I didn't enjoy it as much as the fine print though, and this felt sort of like a copy and paste of the fine print, but not as well done. And I didn't like the main guy as much. Like I really could not get on board with him. Then I read another Ice Planet Barbarians book, that is Barbarian Lover, which is book 3. I gave this one 3 stars. Don't ask me about my rating system for this series. I don't know. Like I don't know. It's just all vibes, to be honest, with this series. Then I read Delilah Green Doesn't Care by Ashley Herring Blake. This was my first Ashley Herring Blake novel and I loved it. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. Another small town romance but with a sapphic couple. It was really cute. I loved the characters. I loved everything about this. I had so much fun reading it. Then I read The Black Flamingo by Dean Atter. This one is told in prose. It's got lots of beautiful like imagery throughout it as well. I gave this one 5 out of 5 stars. It is about Michael, who is discovering his identity as he goes through school and uni, and then Michael discovers the world of drag and how that really helps him, and it's just a really beautiful, really easy to read story, and I definitely recommend this. Next I have Mooncakes by Wendy Zhu and Suzanne Walker. This one was just a really cute, fun graphic novel between a witch and a non-binary werewolf. It was really fun. I had been looking forward to this for ages, and I'm so glad I finally read it. Next up is House of Sky and Breath by Sarah J Maas. I really love this. I also gave it 5 out of 5 stars. This one took me a while to read because I was going through a real rough time when I read this book. So it took me like a month to read in total. But I'm so glad I picked this one up as soon as I did, because like the ending for this, oh my god. During that time, I also decided to read Barbarian Mine and Ice Planet Holiday, which is a even shorter novella in this series. Barbarian Mine I rated 4 stars, and Ice Planet Holiday, which is like a Christmas novella for this series, I rated 2 stars. Then I decided to read Goddess of the Hunt, poems by Shelby Eileen, and this is a poetry collection about the goddess Artemis, and it was just really beautifully written. I love this book so much that I ended up buying a physical copy. I did read this on Kindle first. It is basically a reimagining of the goddess Artemis, but if she was Arrow Ace, and I loved it. I thought it was really good. The next book is a doozy. This one is Guild by Raven Kennedy. I gave this one 2 out of 5 stars. There was like barely any smart in this, like what everybody was saying, and also it was just so boring, especially for the first like 2/3 of the book. I did not care. And then in that same vein, I read Twisted Love by Anna Huang, and oh my god, this was one of the worst books I've read of the year. I did not enjoy this. I rated this one 1 out of 5 stars, and I also ended up DNFing it about like 200-ish pages in, and then I just skim read the rest. I really did not like the main love interest. Like, I know he's meant to be like a dark, broody, bad boy sort of character with a dark past, but I really hated him. Oh my god, if I met that man in real life, I would get as far away from him as possible. I did not like him at all. After that, I listened to the audiobook of Know My Name by Chanel Miller. This is the memoir of Chanel Miller, who was the victim in the Stanford sexual assault case a few years back. And it was, I mean, I feel weird rating a memoir like this, but like it's an easy 5 out of 5 stars. It was so well written, and so many amazing points were brought up and discussed, and it was very raw. Then I read Tripping Arcadia by Kit Mayquist. This one is like a gothic sort of novel. It's not a horror though, it's just straight up a little bit gothic. This was one of my most anticipated reads of 2022. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I did really enjoy it, but it did take me a while to read, and I'm not really sure why. I think I was a little bit unsure for a little while there, but then it really got good. After that, I read Alone with You in the Ether by Olivia Blake. This book like broke me, put me back together again, and then broke me again. It was just beautiful, and the writing was exquisite. I loved this book so much. After that, I read Jujutsu Kaisen volumes 1, 2 and 3, and I enjoyed my time reading these. I reread these because I remember when I watched the anime, I really enjoyed it, but I don't think I kind of computed what was going on a lot of the time, and my memory was really hazy of the anime. So I decided to read these to jog my memory a little bit, and I'm glad I did. And I still love it. I love this story, I love this world, I love these characters. After that, I decided to read Lore Olympus by Rachel Smith. This is volume 1. I gave this one 4 out of 5 stars. I really love this. It's a Hades and Persephone retelling, and the colors, oh my god, the colors throughout this book, oh, it's just beautiful. After that, I read The Tea Dragon Society by Katie O'Neill. I think I literally rated this one 5 out of 5 stars, and it's like a children's size book. Like, it is not very long at all. but I loved this. I loved the different sorts of dragons. I loved the art style. I loved the colors. I loved the story. After that, I went on a little bit of a Kindle Unlimited binge. So after that, I read Princess Ever After by Kay O'Neill as well. Again, really, really cute, easy read. And then I read Poems I Sleep Next To by Shelby Eileen, who was the same author of Goddess of the Hunt. I'm not gonna lie, I read this at like 2 AM and I barely remember any of it, but I remember really enjoying it. And then I read The Yellow Wallpaper by Charlotte Perkins Gilman. This one is a classic. I feel like everybody's read it, but I hadn't read it before, and it's a lot spookier than I realized it would be. I gave this one 4 out of 5 stars. I think it did a really good job of exploring women's mental health, especially in the 1800s when this was first published. After that, I read Alpha by Olivia Blake and Lil Chimera, and this is volume 1. This is their first graphic novel together. I also read this on Kindle Unlimited and it was fine. I really liked it. I loved the artwork, of course. I feel like it could have benefited a lot more by being more dialogue heavy. The next book took the absolute world by storm, and that is I'm Glad My Mum Died by Jeanette McCurdy. This is a memoir and really delves into Jeanette McCurdy's childhood and her growing up as a child actor and her abuse from her mother and what it was like on set of iCarly. I mean, a lot of it is really, really fucked up. Definitely look up trigger warnings for this, but the writing was amazing. After that, I read The Tea Dragon Festival, which is book 2 in the Tea Dragon Society series, and this was much like the Tea Dragon Society. It was just really cute, fun, quick. We got to know more about the dragons and the world and the characters, and I loved it. Then I read Luster by Raven Lalani. I technically also read this at the very start of the year. I gave this one 5 out of 5 stars both times, and the writing is just gorgeous. It's a very weird, kind of unhinged sort of book between a really weird relationship between a black woman named Evie and her relationship with a middle-aged white man, and how she ends up getting involved with his family more. After that, we have Babel by R.F. Kuang. I'm in love with this book. I love the characters, I love the themes, I love the writing, and I thought it was just amazing, and it made me cry and it made me laugh and it made me angry. It just made me feel all the things. Then I read Love in the Time of Serial Killers by Alicia Thompson. I gave this one 3 out of 5 stars. This is not for me. I'm not a true crime girly. It is a romance with a woman who is studying true crime for her PhD, and I thought I would still have fun with this, but I didn't. Then we have Out There by Kate Folk. This is a collection of short stories by her. This was so weird and I loved every second. If you like Junji Ito, I definitely recommend you read this. This felt like reading a bunch of short stories by Junji Ito, but obviously in like more of a novel format. If you like weird books, I recommend this one. If you don't like weird books or like really kind of horrific weird books, maybe give it a miss, but I loved it. After that, I finally got my hands on Fangs by Sarah Anderson, and I rated this one 5 out of 5 stars. If you like puns, read this. If you don't like puns, don't read this. Then I read Spy Family Volume 1, and I love this. Obviously, I'm obsessed with the series. Next up is Damien in the Wood by Leigh Bardugo. This is the first like graphic novel in the Grishaverse series. I had a good time reading this. It wasn't like anything groundbreaking, but if you're a fan of that world, I definitely recommend this one. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. Next up, I read another manga, and that is Chainsaw Man Volume 1. I really enjoyed this one. I think the anime is just one of my new all-time favorites after watching it this year. Next up, I reread Angel Fall for the first time in about 7 or 8 years, and I'm so sad because I did not enjoy this like I enjoyed it the first time around. There's no character development, there's no real motivations behind anything. It's just It's very action-packed, but there's no substance. This next book has a lot of substance, I think, and that is The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab. I can't believe I hadn't read this for so long. I love this book so much. I just think this is one of the most beautiful stories I've ever read. After that is another short story collection by Eric LaRocca. This is Things Have Gotten Worse Since We Last Spoke and Other Misfortunes. This has 3 short stories in it. My favorite was definitely the titular one. Again, very weird sort of horror, so if that's not your thing, maybe give it a miss. But this was right up my alley. It was very strange, but I loved every second. After that, I read Things We Lost in the Fire by Mariana Enriquez. I don't know whether it was due to the translation for this or what, but the first story in this short story collection used a really outdated term for trans people over and over again, like constantly. And then I like an open ending, but all of these stories were so unsatisfying and they all felt like they finished mid-sentence. Then we are, oh my god, we are down to the last stack. Look at that. After that, I read Sister Heart by Sally Morgan. This is a short and sweet little book written in prose. It is about the stolen generation in Australia and our horrific history, and it is about the story of a girl who is stolen from her home in the Northern Territory. It's really sad. It's really tragic, but also it's real. It happened. I am so glad that I read this. After that, I read One True Loves by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I'm slowly getting through all of her backlog books, and this one was one of my favorites of her backlog so far. It's very heartbreaking, but it is so beautifully written and it is so gripping from start to finish. Then I read The American Roommate Experiment by Elena Armes. This one, after reading The Spanish Love Deception, I had high hopes. There was nothing specifically wrong with it. I was just really bored for a lot of it. I gave it 2 out of 5 stars. I felt like everything was a little bit flat, like it was a flat version of The Spanish Love Deception, and maybe I needed to be in a different mind frame for this as well, but I did not have much fun reading this. Then another 2-star read. At this point, I was really scared that I was just going to have 2-star reads for the end of the year. I'm so sad because I was so excited for this. It's basically a short story collection about girlhood and growing up and its complexities and its contradictions. It was like weird, which wasn't my main issue with it, but I was really struggling to get through this. I was bored. After that, thankfully, I read Astrid Parker Doesn't Fail, because this didn't fail in giving me a 5-star read. I think I enjoyed this more than Delilah Green Doesn't Care, and it's very much another sort of like copy and paste situation. It's very similar between the 2 books. But I loved both of the books, so I don't really care. Then on Christmas Day, not before Christmas Day like I should have, I read Merry Little Meet Cute by Julie Murphy and Sierra Simone. This one was just cheesy in all of the best ways. I loved the main couple, I loved the main character and the love interest and their friends and the whole setting, which is a setting of a Hallmark Christmas movie essentially, and it was so much fun. I read volumes 1 and 2 of Blue Flag. Volume 1 I rated 4 out of 5 stars. Volume 2 I rated 5 out of 5 stars. I can see this one becoming a new favorite manga series of mine. I'm getting obsessed with this and I can't stop thinking about it. Then after that, I finally got to Told by Junji Ito. I was a little bit confused because I read like one half in 1 month and then the other half in December, but I really enjoyed all of the short stories all together about Told, and I love Junji Ito's work in general. And then finally, my last book of the year was The Little Prince. Honestly, I love this. I can't believe I hadn't read this sooner. I absolutely flew through this. This was like a one-sitting read. It explores how as an adult you lose a lot of joy and whimsy that you had as a child, and you know, why do we lose that? I know we all have full-time work and life is really busy and stressful, but you gotta find the joy in the little things, and that has honestly been what I've been trying to do for the past year anyway, like actively. And this just was like the perfect read to round off my 2022. So that is it for this video. I now have books surrounding me. I had such a great reading year, both in the quality and the quantity of books that I read. Let me know down below what your favorite book of 2022 was. I'd love to hear it. But thank you so much for watching. I hope you take care of yourselves, and I'll see you all next time. Bye.